Admiral Jack Morrison stood by the large window of the observation deck aboard the diplomatic vessel. Earth looked small from here, a blue marble hanging in the vastness of space. He straightened his uniform and checked his watch. The emergency session of the Galactic Council would begin in 10 minutes. "Admiral, it's time," said a young officer who appeared at his side. Morrison nodded and followed him through the gleaming corridors of the station. After 50 years of service to Earth's Space Force, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. The council chamber was a massive room with high ceilings and seats arranged in rising tiers. Representatives from over 30 alien species filled the room with strange sounds and smells. Morrison took his place behind Earth's ambassador, Diane Powell. "This doesn't look good, Jack," Powell whispered. Her face was tired after 3 days of non-stop negotiations. "The Vraxians have gathered a lot of support." Morrison looked across the chamber where the Vraxian delegation sat. They were tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow. Their chief ambassador, Zexcor, caught Morrison's gaze and made a gesture that might have been a smile. It wasn't friendly. The council elder, an ancient being from the Meldorian species, called the session to order. His voice boomed through the translation devices everyone wore. "We gather to address serious accusations against the Earth government. The Vraxian Empire has presented evidence of weapons development in neutral space, violating Section 7 of the Galactic Peace Accord." Powell stood up. "These accusations are false. Earth has maintained all treaty obligations for the past 70 years without a single violation." Zexcor rose from his seat. "We have detected energy signatures consistent with quantum disruptors in the Procyon system. Our investigation confirms human origin." His voice was smooth, almost pleasant, which made his words more threatening. "The energy signatures detected were from our new deep space survey vessels," Powell replied. "We submitted the technical specifications to the Council last year. They are scientific instruments, not weapons." Morrison watched as Powell displayed evidence on the main screen: ship designs, energy output readings, mission logs. Her presentation was clear and convincing. Yet he could see from the faces and postures of the alien representatives that many had already made up their minds. The Vraxian Empire was one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. They had been spacefaring when humans were still living in caves. Their influence ran deep. "We request a full inspection of human facilities in the Procyon system," Powell finished. "That will confirm our compliance." The council elder nodded and called for comments from other members. Morrison felt a chill as representative after representative spoke in support of sanctions against Earth. Even species that had been friendly to humans remained silent or offered only weak defenses. After 3 hours of debate, the vote was called. Morrison clenched his jaw as the results appeared on the main screen. The Council had approved immediate sanctions against all human colonies and trade routes by a wide margin. "This is outrageous," Powell said, her voice steady despite her anger. "You've presented no solid evidence. These sanctions will cause suffering for millions of civilians." The council elder raised his hand for silence. "The council has spoken. Starting immediately, all human military vessels must return to the Sol system. Trade with Earth colonies will be restricted and monitored. These measures will remain until a full investigation is completed." As the session ended, Morrison caught sight of the Vraxian ambassador. Zexcor was speaking quietly with representatives from 3 other species. He looked pleased. "They planned this," Morrison said to Powell as they left the chamber. "This isn't about weapons. They want something else." Powell nodded. "I know. But what?" Morrison's communication device beeped. He read the message and his face darkened. "We're getting strange reports from the outer colonies," he said. 3 outposts near Vraxian space have stopped responding to communication." Powell looked at him with worry in her eyes. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Morrison didn't answer. He didn't need to. After centuries of peace, humanity was facing its greatest test, and the universe held its breath. waiting to see what would happen next. Samantha Weber stared at the holographic display until her eyes hurt. The patterns of Vraxian ship movements near human space made no sense, unless you assumed the worst. "You've been looking at that for 6 hours straight," said Kyle Roberts as he entered the dimly lit analysis room at Earth Defense Command. He placed a cup of coffee on her desk. "Find anything?" Samantha nodded, grateful for the caffeine. "Look at these fleet formations. They're not patrol patterns. They're staging positions." Kyle leaned closer to the display. His face, illuminated by the blue light, showed growing concern. "That's the third fleet they've moved to the border in a week. And look here." Samantha pointed to another sector. "These supply ships aren't heading to their military bases. They're gathering near our colony at New Horizon." Kyle took a step back. "We need to show this to General Daniels." 2 hours later, they stood in the general's office. Eric Daniels was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes that spoke of decades of service. He studied the data they presented with growing alarm. "So you believe the weapons violation claim was just an excuse?" he asked. Samantha nodded. "Yes, sir. I've analyzed communications from 6 different sources. The Vraxians filed their complaint with the Council 3 days after they began repositioning their fleets. They planned this. The sanctions give them the perfect cover," Kyle added. "Our ships are ordered back to Sol system, leaving the colonies exposed. Meanwhile, everyone is watching us to make sure we comply, but nobody's watching them." General Daniels walked to the window. Outside, the lights of Denver shone against the night sky. "I'll take this to the president right away, but I should warn you both. There are powerful voices in the government still pushing for a diplomatic solution." "Sir, with respect," Samantha said, "the data suggests we don't have much time." The general's communication device buzzed. He answered, listened, and his face paled. "When?" he asked. "Then, keep trying to reestablish contact. I want updates every 30 minutes." He turned to Samantha and Kyle. "We just lost all communication with New Horizon Colony. Complete blackout." "It's starting," Samantha whispered. Over the next 24 hours, 4 more colonies went dark. Earth's government called an emergency session, but debate raged over how to respond. Some officials insisted it must be a technical problem. Others suggested sending an investigation team through proper diplomatic channels. In the Defense Command Center, Samantha worked without rest, gathering every piece of intelligence she could find. Kyle brought her updates from emergency meetings. "The political leadership is paralyzed," he told her after returning from a briefing. "Half of them don't believe the Vraxians would risk war when they always preach about their peaceful civilization." Samantha looked up from her screen. "I found something. An encrypted transmission from a small research vessel near New Horizon. They were hiding in an asteroid field when communications went down." She played the message. The screen showed a young scientist, fear evident in her eyes. "This is Dr. Laura Klein from research vessel Horizon's Eye. Vraxian warships have entered the system. They're jamming all communications and have opened fire on the colony. This is not a drill." "There." The message cut off abruptly. "We need to get this to General Daniels immediately," Kyle said. They rushed through the busy corridors of the command center. People moved with growing urgency as more reports came in. General Daniels was in the main control room, surrounded by military leaders. His face was grim as he looked at them. "We've just received word from our deep space monitoring station," he said. "A large Vraxian battle group has dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Alpha Centauri. They're on direct course for our largest colony there." Samantha handed him the data pad with Dr. Klein's message. "Sir, we have proof of attack." The general watched the recording, then straightened his shoulders. "The president needs to see this, and then we need to prepare our response. The warning signs were there all along. Now we face the fight of our lives." Greg Foster woke to the sound of sirens blaring throughout New Horizon Colony. He jumped out of bed and rushed to the window of his administrator's quarters. The night sky glowed with unnatural light as 5 large Braxian warships descended through the atmosphere. All citizens, this is an emergency alert. The colony's AI announced over the public system. Unidentified vessels have entered orbit. Please proceed to shelter areas immediately. Foster grabbed his emergency tablet and rushed to the colony's command center. The streets were filling with confused and frightened people. New Horizon was home to 8,000 colonists, mostly families who came to build a new life on this fertile world. Report, Foster demanded as he entered the command center. 5 Vraxian warships in orbit, said his assistant. They're blocking all outgoing communications. We can't call Earth for help. The main screen lit up with the face of a Vraxian commander. His yellow eyes seemed to glow with satisfaction. People of New Horizon, the alien said, his words translated by the computer. I am Commander Drekval of the Vraxian Empire. Your colony has been found in violation of Galactic Council directives. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Foster stepped forward. This is Administrator Greg Foster. We have violated no directives. The Council gave no authority for military action against civilian colonies. Your government's crimes are well documented, Drekval replied. You have 1 hour to surrender all weapons and accept Vraxian authority. The screen went dark. Foster turned to his staff. Begin evacuation procedures. Get everyone to the emergency shelters in the mines. They offer the best protection. Sir, said his security chief, we should contact Captain Martinez. Her Marines are our only defense force. Foster nodded. Do it. Captain Lisa Martinez arrived 15 minutes later. She was a compact woman with quick eyes and a determined expression. 24 Marines followed her into the command center. We have a problem, sir, she said without preamble. Those ships are positioning for a surface attack. I don't think they plan to wait the full hour. As if to confirm her words, the building shook as the first explosions hit the colony's outskirts. They're targeting the power stations, someone shouted. Martinez turned to her Marines. Delta Team, help with evacuations. Alpha Team, with me. We need to buy these people time. Foster grabbed her arm. Captain, you have 30 Marines against warships. What can you possibly do? Martinez's face was grim. Our job, sir. She turned to her second-in-command. Sergeant, deploy the hammer systems. The Marines moved with practiced efficiency. Outside, they set up small, innocent-looking devices around the colony's perimeter. Hammer stands for High-Altitude Mobile Multispectrum Electromagnetic Resonator. Martinez explained to Foster as they watched from the command center. They're designed to disrupt enemy targeting systems. On screen, they watched as the Vraxian ships launched attack shuttles filled with troops. As the shuttles entered the atmosphere, the hammer devices activated. 3 shuttles immediately lost control, crashing into empty fields outside the colony. It worked, Foster exclaimed. For now, Martinez replied. But they'll adapt. We need to get your people out. The next 2 hours were chaos. Vraxian ground forces pushed into the colony, while Martinez's Marines fought a strategic retreat, protecting the evacuation routes. The aliens clearly expected an easy victory against the small human force. Instead, they found themselves facing creative tactics and unexpected resistance. Martinez set traps using the colony's construction equipment. Her soldiers used the terrain to maximum advantage, striking quickly then falling back before the Vraxians could bring their superior numbers to bear. In the command center, Foster coordinated the evacuation while recording everything. People need to see this, he said as he downloaded the footage to a secure drive. Earth needs to know what's happening here. Martinez returned, her uniform scorched and bloody. We've cleared path to the emergency shuttles. We can get about 600 people out on those. The rest will have to take shelter in the mines until help comes. If help comes, Foster said quietly. Martinez checked her weapon. It will. And they're going to find that humans don't surrender easily. She smiled grimly. The Vraxians expected to crush us without effort. Instead, they're learning the humans fight back. and we're very good at it. Outside, the battle for New Horizon raged on, the first of many that would change the galaxy forever. Dr. Alan Hayes wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the complex web of neural patterns displayed on the lab's main screen. Deep beneath the lunar surface, his team had worked non-stop for 72 hours since the first attacks on the outer colonies. "How close are we?" asked Dr. Olivia Bennett as she entered the lab. Her normally neat appearance was disheveled after days without proper rest. "Close," Hayes replied. "The interface is stable. We've managed to sync 5 different neural patterns simultaneously." Bennett looked at the data and smiled for the first time in days. "That's twice what we achieved last month." The research facility, buried under 200 meters of lunar rock, was Earth's best-kept secret. 10 years earlier, Hayes had discovered something remarkable about human brains. They possessed unique neural patterns that, when properly harnessed, could create interfaces with advanced technology that no other known species could replicate. It was supposed to be for medical applications, Hayes said quietly, almost to himself. Brain injury recovery, neural disease treatment. Bennett put a hand on his shoulder. "And it will be, Alan. But right now, we need it to survive." The project had started as pure research. Then, 3 years ago, as tensions with the Vraxian Empire grew, military observers had recognized the potential. What if human pilots could connect directly with their ships? What if tactical officers could process sensor data through their own minds rather than through computer displays? On the main screen, test pilot Joe Garcia lay in a neural cradle, his brain waves flowing into the simulator. His reaction times were beyond anything possible with normal controls. "The Vraxians think size and age make them superior," Bennett said. "They've had space travel for 50,000 years. We've had it for less than 300, but they've never seen anything like this." The lab doors slid open. General Daniels entered, his face grim. "We just received a transmission from the Vraxian High Command. They issued an ultimatum. Earth must surrender all colonies and accept protectorate status, or face what they call species extinction." Hayes and Bennett exchanged shocked looks. "They'd dropped all pretense," Daniels continued. "Reports from surviving colonies confirm they're not taking prisoners. This isn't about sanctions or treaty violations. They want us gone." "How much time do we have?" Hayes asked. "Their main battle fleet will reach our solar system in 9 days." Hayes looked at the neural interface prototype. "We need 5. "You have 3, Daniels replied. For the next 72 hours, the lunar lab became the center of humanity's last hope. Engineers worked in shifts to install the neural interface system on the newest human battleship, the U.S. Defiance. The ship had been nearly complete when the crisis began, and was quickly fitted with the experimental technology. Captain Frank Miller arrived at the lab for final testing. He was a veteran of space exploration, with 20 years of service. "So I just lie down and think at my ship?" he asked skeptically. Hayes nodded. "Your neural patterns will be primary, connected with 4 other officers. Together, you'll process information and react faster than any conventional system." "Will it hurt?" Miller asked with a half-smile. "Only the Vraxians," Bennett replied. The final test was a success. Miller and his crew demonstrated reaction times and coordination that seemed impossible. The neural link allowed them to operate as a single organism, each officer understanding the other's intentions without words. As the U.S. Defiance prepared to launch, Hayes received a message from Earth's Defense Command. 3 more colonies had fallen. The Vraxians were moving faster than expected, clearly alarmed by the early resistance they had encountered. "We're out of time," Hayes told Bennett as they watched the Defiance detach from the lunar dock. "Everything depends on Miller now." Bennett watched the ship grow smaller on the view screen. "Do you think it will be enough?" Hayes didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said, "The Vraxians think they know what humans are capable of. They're about to learn they're wrong." The U.S. Defiance accelerated away from Earth, heading toward the advancing Vraxian fleet. Humanity's first counterattack was about to begin. Captain Frank Miller felt the neural interface activate as the U.S. Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Alpha Centauri. It wasn't like anything he had experienced before. His awareness expanded across the ship, merging with the 4 other officers connected to the system. "Status report," he said, though it was barely necessary. He could feel the ship's systems as if they were extensions of his own body. 7 Vraxian warships detected. Lieutenant Susan Kelly reported from Tactical. Through the neural link, Miller didn't just hear her words. He experienced the tactical data directly, understanding the enemy positions instantly. "They're attacking the research station," Lieutenant Paul Garcia added from sensors. 200 civilians trapped there. Miller made his decision. Battle stations will engage from multiple vectors. In a conventional ship, such a tactic against superior numbers would be suicide. But the Defiance was different. As the neural link strengthened, the 5 officers thought and reacted as one mind controlling one body. The Defiance accelerated toward the Vraxian formation. The enemy ships, each twice the size of the human vessel, turned to face the new threat. "They're targeting us," Kelly reported. "Weapons charging." Miller didn't need to give detailed orders. Through the neural link, his tactical plan flowed to the crew. The Defiance suddenly split its drive output, creating a false sensor reading that made it appear to be in 2 places at once. The confused Vraxian ships fired at both targets, missing the real Defiance as it slipped between them. "Weapons free," Miller ordered. The Defiance fired with perfect precision, hitting the weak points in the Vraxian shields that would have been impossible to target with conventional systems. 2 enemy ships lost power immediately. On the Vraxian command ship, Supreme Commander Tral Khan watched in disbelief as the small human vessel danced through his formation. His gunners couldn't lock onto it. The ship moved with impossible speed and unpredictability. "What kind of technology is this?" he demanded. A science officer checked the readings. "Unknown, Commander. The ship's movements suggest reaction times beyond normal parameters." Tral Khan slammed his fist on the console. "Concentrate all fire. It's just one ship." The remaining Vraxian vessels coordinated their attack, creating a web of energy beams that would be impossible to evade. But the Defiance didn't try to evade. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the largest Vraxian ship. Through the neural link, Miller and his crew identified a microscopic flaw in the enemy's defensive screen. The Defiance fired a precisely calibrated burst that passed through the tiny gap and struck the Vraxian ship's power core. The massive vessel exploded, creating a shockwave that disrupted the other Vraxian ship's formation. Before they could recover, the Defiance struck again and again, disabling 2 more ships. Tral Khan ordered a retreat. The remaining Vraxian ships jumped away, leaving their disabled companions behind. The battle was over in less than 20 minutes. A human ship had defeated a Vraxian battle group for the first time in the conflict. Miller disconnected from the neural interface, exhausted but triumphant. "Secure the disabled Vraxian vessels and send a message to Earth. Tell them the neural interface works better than we could have hoped." Back on Earth, Ambassador Powell received the news of the victory during an emergency session of the Galactic Council. She immediately demanded the floor. "Distinguished representatives," she said, her voice firm, "I bring evidence of unprovoked Vraxian aggression against civilian targets." She played the recordings from New Horizon and other attacked colonies. The council chamber fell silent as the footage showed Vraxian ships firing on unarmed settlements. "The sanctions against Earth were based on false accusations," Powell continued. "While we complied with council directives, the Vraxian Empire launched a war of extermination against our people." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The Eldorian representative, whose species had ancient ties with the Vraxians, spoke up. "These are serious accusations. How do we know these recordings are authentic?" "Because we have captured Vraxian warships with their own battle logs," Powell replied. "And because your own long-range sensors must have detected the battle that just took place at Alpha Centauri." Across the chamber, the Vraxian ambassador's face darkened with rage. Their plan had been perfect, until the humans started fighting back in ways they never expected. On his flagship approaching the Sol system, Emperor Zoxral received the news of the defeat. His reaction was swift and merciless. "Send Supreme War Leader Krathar," he ordered. "Gather every ship we have. The humans must be destroyed before they share their technology with others." The galaxy had never seen the Vraxian Empire deploy its full military might. Now it would, and the universe held its breath. Ambassador Diane Powell moved carefully through the crowded reception hall of the Galactic Council's central tower. After the evidence she had presented, many species were now questioning the Vraxian narrative. It was a dangerous time to be Earth's representative. "Ambassador Powell," a soft voice called from behind a large plant display. "A moment of your time." Powell recognized the speaker as Drulmak, representative of the Tellurian sphere, a species known for their careful neutrality. She glanced around to ensure they weren't being watched, then approached. "I have information you need," Drulmak said quietly, his large eyes constantly scanning the room. "The Vraxians have done this before. 20,000 years ago, they eliminated a promising species called the Novan. Official records say the Novans destroyed themselves in a civil war. But that's not what happened," Powell guessed. "No, the Vraxians feared their rapid technological development." Drulmak slipped her a small data crystal. "This contains classified council records. The pattern is identical to what they're doing to humans now." Powell concealed the crystal quickly. "Why help us? Your people have always been neutral." Drulmak's face showed an expression Powell couldn't read. "Because balance must be maintained. The Vraxians have grown too powerful, too certain of their superiority." As they parted, Powell spotted a Vraxian diplomatic aide watching her. She smiled politely and continued through the reception, making small talk with various representatives while her mind raced. Back in Earth's embassy, Powell reviewed the data with her staff. The crystal contained evidence of 3 other emerging species that had mysteriously disappeared after showing unusual technological progress. "We need to approach the Eldorians," Powell said. "They have ancient grievances against the Vraxians. With this evidence, they might support us." Her security chief frowned. "The Eldorians? They've been Vraxian allies for centuries." "Only because they fear them," Powell replied. "Fear can be a powerful motivator, but so can the opportunity for justice." On Earth, the war effort had transformed society. Every factory had been converted to produce components for the neural interface technology. Volunteers lined up to have their neural patterns mapped and added to the growing database. Dr. Hayes watched as a group of school teachers underwent the mapping process. "Each human brain has unique patterns," he explained to General Daniels. "The more patterns we add to the system, the more versatile it becomes." "The neural ships are performing beyond expectations," Daniels replied. "We've won 3 more engagements against superior numbers." Hayes nodded. "But the Vraxians are adapting. Their latest tactics show they're learning our capabilities." "Will it be enough?" Daniels asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Before Hayes could answer, an aide rushed in. "General, we've intercepted Vraxian communications. Supreme War Leader Krathar has taken command of their fleet. They're gathering every available ship for a direct assault on Earth." Daniels's face paled. "How many?" "Over 200 major warships, sir. More than we've ever seen them deploy." In deep space, Ambassador Powell met secretly with the Eldorian representative aboard a neutral trading vessel. The reptilian diplomat reviewed the evidence in silence. "If what you say is true," the Eldorian said finally, "the Vraxians have violated the most sacred laws of the Council. The extinction of developing species is forbidden." "It is true," Powell assured him, "and they plan to do the same to us." The Eldorian scales rippled in what Powell recognized as anger. "My government has lived in the shadow of Vraxian power for too long. We will bring this evidence to our High Council." Powell held her breath. This alliance could change everything. Meanwhile, 3 Vraxian assassins entered Earth's embassy, seeking the ambassador. They found only a security team waiting for them. Powell had been warned of the attempt by Drulmak just in time. As reports of the assassination attempt spread, more council species began to question Vraxian actions. Small powers that had long been intimidated now whispered among themselves. In her temporary quarters, Powell received a secure communication from Earth. The Vraxian main fleet has entered the Sol system, Admiral Morrison reported. We're facing their full might. Whatever you're doing out there, Ambassador, do it quickly. We're about to make our stand. Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Command flagship Guardian. Around him, officers worked with quiet intensity as the massive Vraxian fleet approached Earth. 200 enemy warships against Earth's defensive force of 60 vessels. The numbers were not in humanity's favor. All ships report neural interfaces at full capacity, his executive officer reported. The civilian volunteers have integrated successfully. Morrison nodded. Every ship in Earth's fleet now carried the neural technology, with crews composed of both military personnel and civilian volunteers whose neural patterns had proven exceptionally compatible with the system. Supreme War Leader, Crothar is hailing us, the communications officer said. The main screen displayed the face of the most decorated military commander in Vraxian history. Crothar had 4 facial scars, each representing a species he had defeated in battle. He clearly expected humans to be his fifth. This is your only warning, Crothar said without preamble. Surrender your planet, and your species may survive as servants. Resist, and you will be exterminated. Morrison met the alien's gaze steadily. We've seen what Vraxian mercy looks like on our colonies. We choose to fight. Crothar's yellow eyes narrowed. Then you choose extinction. The screen went dark. Morrison turned to his crew. All ships, execute Operation Scattered Stars. Across Earth's defensive line, neural-linked ships suddenly broke formation in what appeared to be random directions. To the Vraxians, it looked like panic or confusion, but each movement was precisely calculated. The Vraxians are advancing in standard conquest formation, reported Captain Miller from the U.S. Defiance. They're not adapting to our movements. Now, ordered Morrison. 30 human ships simultaneously jumped to faster-than-light speed for just a fraction of a second, a maneuver previously considered impossible due to the calculation speeds required. The neural interfaces made it possible. The ships reappeared inside the Vraxian formation, disrupting their carefully planned attack patterns. Crothar watched in rage as human vessels materialized throughout his fleet. Impossible. No ships can calculate jumps that precisely. The bridge of his flagship shook as the U.S. Defiance appeared less than a kilometer away and opened fire on his engines. The battle devolved into a chaotic melee. The neural-linked human ships reacted with impossible speed, outmaneuvering the larger but slower Vraxian vessels. What the humans lacked in firepower, they made up for in precision and coordination. On the lunar base, Dr. Hayes and Dr. Bennett worked frantically on a new application of the neural technology. If we can expand the network to tap into the Galactic Council's communication system, Hayes explained as his fingers flew across the controls, we can broadcast everything happening here. Bennett looked up from her own console. The Council will see the truth. They'll see what the Vraxians are really doing. And they'll see humanity fighting back, Hayes added. Everyone thinks we're already defeated. Let's show them otherwise. In orbit around Earth, the battle raged. Despite their superior technology and numbers, the Vraxians found themselves unable to establish an advantage. Their formations kept breaking apart as human ships darted between them, striking with surgical precision, then jumping away before retaliation. This isn't possible, Crothar snarled as another Vraxian cruiser exploded. Their technology is too primitive for these tactics. His science officer studied the readings with growing alarm. The human ships are somehow linked together. They're reacting as a single organism rather than individual vessels. Krathar ordered his forces to jam all communications between the human ships, not understanding that the neural interface required no traditional communications to function. Back on the lunar base, Hayes activated the expanded neural network. "We're in," he said triumphantly, connecting to the Council's emergency broadcast system. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, the Galactic Council's communication network suddenly displayed the battle for Earth. Council members watched in astonishment as the supposedly primitive humans fought the mighty Vraxian fleet to a standstill. On the Council station, Ambassador Powell saw the broadcast appear on the main chamber screens. She stepped forward before anyone could shut it down. "Distinguished representatives," she announced, "you are witnessing the true face of Vraxian peace. They came to exterminate humanity, as they have done to other species before us. But we refuse to be their next victims." The chamber erupted in chaos as council members saw the Vraxians firing on Earth's civilian structures. More importantly, they saw humans fighting back with unexpected skill and determination. In Earth orbit, Admiral Morrison received a priority message. "Sir, the neural network is broadcasting the battle galaxy-wide. Everyone can see what's happening here." Morrison allowed himself a grim smile. "Then let's make sure we give them a good show. All ships, execute final defense pattern. Let's push them back." The Galactic Council chamber erupted in shouts and demands as the battle for Earth played out on the main screens. Species that had remained silent now called for immediate action against the Vraxian Empire. "This is a violation of our most sacred laws," the Eldorian representative roared, his reptilian features flushed with anger. "The Vraxians attempt genocide while lying to this council." Powell watched as the political tide turned. Even long-time Vraxian allies were backing away, unwilling to be associated with such obvious aggression against a developing species. The council elder called for order. "We must vote on immediate intervention. This conflict threatens galactic stability." In Earth orbit, the battle had reached its peak. Human ships darted between the massive Vraxian vessels, scoring hit after hit. But the sheer number of enemy ships was beginning to tell. 3 neural-linked human cruisers had been destroyed, and more were reporting critical damage. "We can't hold them much longer," Miller reported from the Defiance, which now showed damage across its hull. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical display. "We need to focus on their command ship. If we can take out Krathar, it might disrupt their coordination." On his flagship, Supreme War Leader Krathar raged at his officers. "Push forward. They are only humans. They cannot defeat the might of the Vraxian Empire." His tactical officer looked up from the sensor readings. "War Leader, we're detecting new ships entering the system. Multiple signatures. It's an Eldorian battle fleet." "Impossible," Krathar hissed. "The Eldorians would never dare oppose us." But the evidence was clear on the screens. Eldorian warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the edge of the battle. They were followed by vessels from 7 other species, all members of the Galactic Council. A transmission came through on all frequencies. "This is Fleet Commander Zorkul of the Eldorian Collective. By authority of the Galactic Council, we order all Vraxian forces to cease hostilities immediately." In the Council chamber, Powell watched as the emergency vote concluded. The Council had voted overwhelmingly to intervene against the Vraxian Empire. Sanctions, reparations, and military action had all been approved. The Vraxian ambassador stood frozen, unable to believe what was happening. Centuries of Vraxian dominance were crumbling before his eyes. Krathar received the Council's decision with cold fury. "I do not recognize their authority. The humans must be destroyed before they spread their technology to others." He ordered his flagship to charge directly toward Earth, ignoring the Eldorian fleet and the Council's commands. "If we strike their homeworld, they will still fall." Admiral Morrison saw the massive Vraxian command ship break formation and accelerate toward Earth. "All ships, intercept course. We cannot let that ship reach the planet." But the human vessels were too damaged or too far away. Nothing stood between Krathar's flagship and Earth except the badly damaged U.S. Defiance. Captain Miller and his neural-linked crew assessed the situation in milliseconds. "Admiral, we can intercept, but there's only one way to stop a ship that size." Morrison understood immediately. "Miller, no. Fall back. That's an order." "Sorry, sir. Sometimes you have to break the rules." Miller smiled slightly. "The needs of the many, as they say." The Defiance accelerated to maximum speed, on a direct collision course with Crothar's flagship. Crothar saw the human ship approach. Destroy that vessel. But the Defiance moved with impossible precision, evading the defensive fire. In the final seconds, Miller spoke to his crew through the neural link. "It's been an honor." The collision was visible from Earth's surface, a small bright star that flared and died as the two ships were destroyed together. 1 month later, Ambassador Powell addressed the reformed Galactic Council. The chamber was different now. The Vraxian Empire's seat had been moved from its place of prominence, and new protocols had been established to prevent any single power from dominating council decisions. "The conflict has shown us that age and tradition are not always the best measures of a civilization," Powell said. "Adaptability, innovation, and cooperation are equally important. Humanity offers its neural interface technology for medical applications to all council species, as was its original purpose." As she spoke, Dr. Hayes sat in the observation gallery. He held a data pad containing the latest research results. The neural interface had evolved beyond their understanding, showing signs of a new form of consciousness when multiple minds connected simultaneously. On Earth, a memorial service honored those who had fallen in the conflict. Captain Miller and the crew of the Defiance received the highest honors. Their sacrifice had saved not just humanity, but perhaps changed the course of galactic history. General Daniels approached Hayes after the service. "Was it worth it, Doctor?" Hayes looked up at the stars, now filled with new possibilities and new friends. "They tried to exterminate us because they feared our potential. Instead, they forced us to achieve it. And now the universe knows. Humanity will not go quietly into the night." Across the galaxy, species that had once dismissed humans as primitive newcomers now watched with a mixture of admiration and unease. The universe had recalculated humanity's place among the stars.